Hello everyone and welcome to Pyanodons Mods. This is Otaku Showboat and today we will be going over the Niobium processing chain. As per usual, please do not forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to make sure that this series appears higher up in search results. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/otakushowboat, on Twitter at otakushowboat, visit my website at otakushowboat.com, as well as help to support my continued existence on Patreon at patreon.com/otakushowboat. You can also help support Pyanodons Mods development at patreon.com/pyanodon. As a disclaimer, Pyanodons mods are in a constant state of flux, so any numbers and such that I present here today are always subject to change. The mods used for this particular video are nearly identical to my stream save mods, the list of which is linked below on my stream schedule page. The key exception is that I am using the Infinity Mode mod to help to showcase the overall chain here. And with that said, let us begin. So Niobium is rather short. Niobium is interesting in that it is one of the few of the ore chains that is very set. It doesn't change with time. Once you have it, you have it. Niobium, molybdenum, I'd say somewhat even borax, all apply to this. Once you set it, you're done with it, which is always nice, especially here where the chain is only 6 total steps to get to plates in the end. It's even shorter if you're just going for complex, but we will get to that. The hard part, the significantly harder part of Niobium, is that Niobium will require refined syngas. Refined syngas. I think it's not even called refined, it's just syngas. Refined syngas. And you'll need a fair amount of this to actually mine Niobium. There are various methods of obtaining refined syngas. The syngas into methanol is nice because it also gives you a bit of acid gas, which gives you sulfuric acid in the end. So that is always going to be a nice option for you. Of course, there will be a Tholen recipe. There's also coal bed gas, although note the filtration media required for that as well. Otherwise, it's pretty simple of a thing to get, and depending on how you get it, you might not even need syngas. So, my advice, it doesn't really matter exactly how you get the refined syngas, but I would think about using the syngas plus methanol because there is a recipe for, it's for methanol, but it gives equal amounts of methanol and syngas out. And I'm trying to remember, where is it on this list? Wherefore art thou? Here. This recipe, but it involves a lot of Nextlet, and it may not be worth it to you to set up that much Nextlet, especially in the really early game. But anyway, no matter how you get your refined syngas, there are other ways of getting the Niobium ore. There are other ways. Two other ways, technically speaking. There is the very, very, very bad way of trying to get as a primary source of niobium, the tar into tailings, flue gas, and saline. You have the option of doing raw borax and niobium or iron and copper. It really doesn't matter what you do. If you're doing this recipe, you're doing it for the tailings, the saline, and the flue gas. You're doing it for these, not so much for these. Ground boring niobium is one of two that requires drilling fluid 3. And it will still need the refined syngas. So if you're ground boring, just bear in mind this is drilling fluid 3, not 2. A lot of stuff uses 2. This one uses 3, as well as molybdenum also uses 3. So bearing all that in mind, we will start our chain by converting our ore into powder in a jaw crusher. We will then convert the powder into dust in a ball mill, then classify that dust into concentrate, then convert that concentrate into complex in a chem plant, and then into an oxide that will then be cast into plates in an electrolyzer. And this is going to have a bunch of outside inputs to talk about. So what I've designed here is just your basic little setup of 15 ore in, 2 plates out, Mark 1 buildings, and all that good stuff. It may not be exactly 2 ratio, but anyway. Here we've got what should be, it will be 15, because yeah, it would end up being 15 in at 6 jaw crushers, because 5 is less than 15. 15 in, 7.5 out on the powder, because it's 10 to 5. You will have stone that you need to deal with here, and the next step you will have gravel that you'll need to deal with here. And this is going to be ultimately your 7.5 in. We've got 5 ball mills here. Your 7.5 in to 15 out, so you're getting the same amount out as in, but you also have the 3 gravel to deal with. So that's why we've sort of got this weird stuff going on here with the yellow belts, because you will have to deal with more than a yellow belt in total of outputs here that you will have to do something about. This will all become concentrate. This will convert 15 into 10. So from 15 ore into 10 concentrate. And the 10 concentrate will become 100 units of complex. Note the hydrogen chloride as well as the organic solvent inputs here. Not a ton of organic solvent, a fair amount of hydrogen chloride, though. My suggestion, as always on hydrogen chloride, is tholin the chlorine, electrolyze through standard water for the hydrogen, bring in lamps. Hydrogen chloride now provides the lamp back half the time, so it acts as more of a catalyst for this, and you get your lamp back, which is fantastic. Half the time you'll get your lamp back. Makes it a little bit more logistically interesting, but overall, it is better than what it was before. As for the organic solvent, I will always suggest the recipe that's done in the oil refineries, the vanilla oil refineries. However, at the point in the game where you are first setting up niobium, you need niobium to make oil refineries, because you need niobium pipe to make the oil refineries. So, how are you going to get organic solvent to kick the process off? Well, there is bone meal and olefins. I I'm uncertain. I think you do have means of getting olefins in that phase of the game. I'm unsure if you already have the aromatics to olefins, but that would be the way to go if you do. This is the recipe that I would suggest doing in the vanilla oil refinery. The problem with the vanilla oil refinery is that it does require niobium pipes and it requires stainless steel. So two things that at the point in the game that you're setting up niobium, which by the way is between green science and blue science, you won't be able to actually do this recipe yet. What you will be able to do, though, is either bone meal and olefins or bone meal activated carbon and aromatics. This is very expensive. Chances are what you'll end up doing is basically just making enough to get non-zero amounts of plates at the start, and then once you do get some stainless steel and some niobium pipes in order to get oil refineries, then you'll start to migrate over to this process because it is a much better process overall, especially if you get your acetone out of tholins. Specifically, if you're getting your acetone out of tholins. So complex also is considered your molten niobium step. Any time you are making an alloy, which there are alloys, there is NBFE alloy in particular that requires niobium. It will use niobium complex and molten iron when you do get access to the molten recipe for NBFE alloy. There's also niobium titanium alloy, as well as cladding. To think about. Cladding is only used for cladded cores, which are involved in magnetic cores and copper coating. This is your circuit 2 chain for the copper coating. Magnetic cores are part of a very long set of things here for Mark III stuff. And more Mark III stuff, and space science, and all that good stuff. So a lot of late game things. A lot of late game things on the magnetic cores here, and circuit 3s. So that gets used a fair bit. That gets used a fair bit on the cladding. This will be niobium complex plus nitrobenzene plus glass. I'm actually working on a setup that will eventually be beaconed circuit 2s, so we've got our cladding here at the moment. So yeah, you've got the niobium iron and the niobium titanium alloys as your two alloys. The niobium titanium is going to be primarily used, I see here, in Mark IV stuff, some Mark III stuff. Nenbit matrix, which is very, 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 very much involved in your purple science directly. You will need it for purple science directly in the form of the Nenbit matrix, because you need it for control units, as well as everything else that is involved with control units. You even need it for special small parts. So, yeah, lots of that. And that is consuming your niobium titanium alloy. And then this substrate, which we have just looked at as well. As for the niobium iron alloy, this stuff is used in more Mark IV stuff. It is used, I know, in Mark III stuff. It is used in lead containers, which are part of the glorious purple science chain, as well as for zinc oxide nanoparticles, aka circuit 4 chain stuff, and later. So across the board, lots of things. You need niobium iron alloy for molybdenum mines. So if you're trying to get nitty gritty about timing of things, you need to set up niobium before you can set up molybdenum. You need to set up niobium before you can set up molybdenum. You're going to need military science before you can set up molybdenum. Keep all these things in mind as we go along. Now, if you're trying to make the actual plates themselves, you will take your complex, add a lot of ammonia. Remember, it's 500 units of ammonia for 100 complex to give you 20 oxide out. So again, you don't have red belts at the early game. And good luck exactly in the green science phase of getting 500 units of ammonia that you can have spare to go into this, because it's rather expensive at green science. I think you have this, but it's a lot of space that you may not be comfortable with using yet to get the amounts of ammonia that you really need. Let me see what tech level. I think it is green. Yeah, it is green that you will get the ammonia from urea, so you will get access to this. You'll want to do this to get your primary supply of ammonia, but it's just the building costs that you have to take into consideration when it comes to the ammonia requirements. This is not an insignificant amount if you are actually doing 15 per second of ore in. Now, casting into plates. Remember we had 20. Remember we had 20 oxide. Yeah, you know, like over 60 units of salt per second is required to actually cast these plates. Over 60 units per second of salt is required to actually cast these plates. It's rather extreme how much salt is required to cast these plates. It will be your limiting factor. Just salt in general in Pyanodons mods is going to be massively limiting to you. And even with direct mining of salt, it's not going to give you enough salt. Just going to throw that out there. Even with mining the salt, you're not going to have enough overall as time goes on. So you're going to need dedicated setups producing salt out of essentially just water through the power of mushrooms and destructive distillation columns, converting mushroom-based coal into tar into saline water, and then evaporating the saline water into salt. Oh boy. So yeah, lots and 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 lots of salt for a decent output of plates. This is a nice decent output. It's not 1-to-1 in terms of ore in to plates out, which is slightly unfortunate. But here's the catch. So that's all you need. That's all you need for the niobium chain. Outside inputs, organic solvent, HCl, ammonia, and salt. That's it. That's all. It produces stone and gravel as byproducts. We're basically done with this tutorial. That's it. That's how to do niobium. It is not that difficult. However, if we go over here, I want to show you how things can progress, because the entire chain can use productivity modules. Now, I will say right off the bat, I am using a mod that gives me additional module slots. At Mark II, it's roughly equivalent to the vanilla, vanilla. Pyanodon setting that you can choose to have double each tier. So you have 4, 4, 2, 4 on these buildings if you have that setting on. Otherwise, I think it's either stays the same or goes down. So 1 or 2 at basic levels. But the point here is that it dramatically increases the amount of buildings. These are all Mark II buildings, by the way. Dramatically increases the amount of buildings that you need, as well as will dramatically improve the output in the end. So just bearing in mind that because that this chain does not continue, it doesn't have additional steps added to it, the way in which you are going to get your niobium more efficiently the further up the tech tree you go is by putting in productivity modules and then better productivity modules as you get them. So just bear all of that good stuff in mind as you go forward. Niobium and molybdenum chains can both use productivity modules. With that said, that is the end of this tutorial. It is a very short one this time around. I would like to thank you all for watching. This has been Otaku Showboat. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to help make sure that this video series is higher up in search results. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/otakushowboat, on Twitter at otakushowboat, visit my website at otakushowboat.com, and help to support my continued existence on Patreon at patreon.com/otakushowboat. You can also help support Pyanodons Mods development at patreon.com/Pyanodon. Our next tutorial, if I'm not completely mistaken, I believe will be the zinc chain. Zinc is next. That's going to be a interesting one. It's a longer chain, a little bit more complex further down the line, but yeah, that one will be next, and I hope to see you all then.